Welcome to Crenbowl Season 8, Week 3 recap. Our match for Division A this week is Crendor's Canadian pastry-themed Dark Elves versus Colgia's Power Ranger Gemstones-themed Underworld. Crendor currently sits undefeated at 2 wins, while Colgia is winless, racking up 1 tie and 1 loss. Most of Colgia's players are armor value 7, which makes Crendor's assassin particularly deadly, while Colgia's stunty players will be able to pierce through Crendor's line. On turn 2, Crendor's team is tied up at the center of the field. Due to this, Crendor elects to run one of his players into scoring range and pass to them. The pass is inaccurate, but still bounces into the receiver's hands. Crendor is able to score on the next turn, leaving Colgia with 6 turns to score himself. On turn 3, Colgia pushes down the center without committing to either side, but successfully baits Crendor into moving 2 of his players to the left by moving a single goblin to that side. Crendor commits 2 of his players on the right to a blitz on a goblin guarding the ball carrier, which results in a both down. This vacates even more space on the right that Colgia can push into. On his next turn, Crendor only has enough players in range to make a single layered screen in front of Colgia's cage, unless he makes multiple GFIs to create a double layered screen, which he decides not to do. At this point, things are looking bad for Crendor. Colgia's ball carrier is in scoring range, and his screen is easily broken through. But on his next turn, before going for a blitz through Crendor's screen, Colgia attempts to make a 2-die block with his troll, resulting in a turnover, and allows Crendor to encircle and tie down Colgia's cage. Colgia blitzes and pushes the Witch Elf to create an opening in the back, which his ball carrier escapes through, and passes the ball to an awaiting lineman, who fails to catch it. Colgia re-rolls the catch and fails it again. On turn 7, Crendor attempts to blitz away with his Witch Elf to set up a scoring threat before he goes for the ball pickup. However, he rolls them both down, ending his turn. This leaves Colgia free on his turn to pick up the ball, hand it off to his goblin, and score, tying up the game 1-1 before the half ends. Moving to the second half with Colgia receiving, on turn 11, Crendor sets up a screen in front of Colgia's advance on the left side of the field. He moves a player to reinforce that screen, but fails to put him directly behind the Witch Elf. This means that a single push is all that Colgia needs on her to push through and score. This gives Colgia the 2-1 lead, and this lead holds as the game ends 3-2 in Colgia's favor. Our next match in Division B sees Straw Moses' Chicago Bears-themed Kislev facing off against Kit Mat's famous Skeletons-themed Khemri. Kit Mat is sitting at the top of the division, undefeated at 2 wins. Moses has 1 win and 1 loss coming into this game. Khemri have a strong bash advantage over the Kislev, even more so with a Mighty Blow Blitzraw and a Strength 6 Tomb Guardian. On the other hand, the Kislev ability to leap into cages and get 1-die blitzes on the ball carrier every turn is particularly potent against Khemri because of their difficulty recovering the ball due to their low agility. The ball lands right next to the line of scrimmage on the right side of the field, and Kit Mat gets a blitz kickoff event, allowing him to put a Blitzraw directly underneath the ball and cage up around it. On the next turn, Kit Mat pushes away the one player that is basing his ball carrier and moves him to the center of the field and forms a partial cage around him. Due to Moses not having a second character in range for ball recovery, he elects not to attempt a leap 2-die blitz on the ball carrier and instead decides to screen and wait for a better opportunity. By turn 5, Kit Mat has broken through and Moses has only 3 players available to try and stop the advance. He decides to leap his catcher into the cage and have the 2 other players screen in front. Another possible play to directly attack the ball instead would have been for Moses to leap away with his standing catcher, move him to cancel out the 2 assists on the left side of the cage, and leap blitz his lineman in for a 1-die block on the ball carrier, leaving his 2 other catchers on the ground to be available for ball recovery. Because the screen he opts to create is so narrow though, Kit Mat is able to go around it and reset up the cage closer to the end zone, allowing him to run in the ball on turn 6. This leaves Moses with 2 turns to score before the half ends. He picks the ball up and throws to his catcher that is further up the field and then runs that ball carrier deep into Kit Mat's side of the field in a blitzable position, relying on Kit Mat's inevitable blitz on him on the next turn to fail. When Kit Mat does blitz, he rolls double push and has no reroll to use. This allows Moses to leap over the thrower and score. Moses isn't able to hold on to the tie, and Kit Mat wins 2-1. Moving on to Division C, we have Maro's totally non-suspicious and generic as possible Skaven team versus Ikaten's Sea Shanty-themed Dwarf team. Maro is undefeated, sitting at 2 wins, while Ikaten has 2 ties. This matchup sees the fastest team in Blood Bowl, mostly with armor value 7, going up against the slowest, mostly with armor value 9. At the beginning of the match, Ikaten chooses a widely spread defensive formation. Because of the Dwarves' significant movement disadvantage, this means that if Maro chooses to push down one side of the field, the other side will be able to reach his push for 1 turn. The kick lands on the front left side of the field, further encouraging Maro to commit to that side. Maro pushes up far enough that Ikaten would require to make 3 GF5s in order to make a double layer screen in front of him. Instead, he decides to just make a single layer screen and focus the rest of his resources on bashing Maro's players and blitzing the Rat Ogre to prevent it from surfing its own blitzer on the next turn. On turn 2, Maro blitzes through Ikaten's screen and moves his ball carrier into a safe position, easy scoring range. Maro is able to stall for 1 more turn before Ikaten breaks through enough to force him to score on turn 4, giving Maro the 1-0 lead. At the beginning of the second half, Morrow kicks right to the line of scrimmage on Icketon's side of the field and gets a blitz kickoff event, allowing him to move his gutter runner underneath the ball and the rest of his free players into position to protect it. But the gutter runner fails to catch the ball and lands on Morrow's side of the field, allowing Icketon to give the ball to his blitzer on the other side. On turn 9, Icketon pushes forward with his ball carrier, but decides to devote his resource to blocking Morrow's players instead of defending the ball. On his turn, after setting up safeties, Morrow dodges away to blitz the ball carrier. He picks the ball up on the scatter and sets up his own defensive cage. On turn 10, Morrow runs backwards to protect the ball carrier. On turn 11, however, he runs that ball carrier forward, but fails to dodge to move a lineman into position to protect him, which allows Icketon to blitz and knock the ball to the ground. Icketon takes 5 turns to run down the field, and on turn 16, due to all the removal Icketon has gotten throughout the match, is able to score, ending the game in a 1-1 tie. Finally, in Division D, we have Aramis's Biscuit-themed Undead team versus Jorsley's Birds of Prey-themed Wood Elf team. Aramis is sitting undefeated with 2 wins, while Jorsley has 1 tie and 1 loss on the record. Aramis is playing at his home stadium, the Digestive Dojo. Perhaps more than any other team in Blood Bowl, Wood Elf teams are built around one very important positional, their War Dancers, and one of Jorsley's 2 War Dancers will be out for this match with a missed next game injury. The kick lands right next to the line of scrimmage on the right side of the field. Jorsley picks it up and cages right in that area. Aramis responds by moving most of his players, including his 2 movement 3 mummies, to put pressure on that cage. Jorsley responds by repositioning the cage on the left side of the field, out of range of the mummies, and Aramis continues to focus on putting pressure on it. Jorsley sends out a single lineman on the right side as a scoring threat, and condenses the rest of his team on the left to defend the ball carrier. Aramis marks Jorsley's scoring threat with a single goal, and moves the rest of his team to the left to continue to put pressure on the ball. At this point, all of Aramis's players, except for the 1 goal marking Jorsley's scoring threat, are on the left side of the field away from him, so Jorsley attempts to pass to him and score. Jorsley has already used his 1 reroll earlier in the half, however, so when the catch fails, he can't reroll it. Aramis blitzes Jorsley's scoring threat, continues to make blocks on Jorsley's group of players on the left side of the field, picks up the ball with his ghoul, and moves in the direction of his main force on the left side of the field. This puts him in range of Jorsley's War Dancer, though, who blitzes him down. Aramis fails to pick up the ball, and Jorsley is able to pick it up in 2 tackle zones, dodge away, and pass to his lineman in the end zone to score. After Aramis gets an immediate turnover in the next drive, Jorsley sets up a very tight screen on the left side of the field, leaving the right completely open for Aramis to claim. But with no rerolls left on turn 8, he fails his second GFI into the end zone with his ball carrier. Despite Jorsley managing to knock down Aramis's ball carrier once, with only 6 players left on the field, he's not able to seriously contest him for the ball, and Aramis is able to score on turn 13, tying up the score. The next drive starts with a riot, leaving both coaches with only 2 turns to score and win the match. Jorsley sets up 2 scoring threats. In this league format, a tie is only slightly better than a loss, so instead of blitzing one of Jorsley's scoring threats, Aramis only marks them. He sets up 2 scoring threats of his own and prepares to blitz Jorsley's screen around his ball carrier, but fails a GFI before he can do it. This creates an opening for Jorsley to pass to one of his scoring threats, move it out of blitzing range, and then score on turn 16, ending the match 2-1 in his favor. That concludes the Week 3 recap. For more information or to get involved, join the Crendor Discord. See you next week and take care.